Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video. First things first, guys, make sure you smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here, all of that good stuff. And as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. And big news over the last day or so, Thomas Tuchel is the new England manager, officially unveiled today at a press conference at Wembley. It's happening, 18-month contract starting January 1st, 2026 World Cup. Here we come. But it's been met with a bit of a mixed reaction, which surprised me. A lot of people not happy about it. A lot of people thinking it should be English, regardless of the quality of candidates. And it has certainly divided opinion. But to discuss Thomas Tuchel, whether the national team coach should be English and all of that stuff, I'd like to be joined by Dom. Mate, thanks for coming as always. It's a pleasure. This one moved pretty quickly. Before we get into it, what are your initial thoughts? You happy? Good appointment?
I think it's a statement appointment, isn't it? It shows that the FA are looking to get the winning done now, really. I mean, obviously England had some close calls under Gareth Southgate, 2 European Championship finals, which England came close in and lost, a World Cup semi-final as well. So I think the FA really feel that what England need to do now is get over the line and win a trophy, and hopefully Thomas Tuchel will do that.
Yeah, no, I agree with it. I think I've been highly critical of the FA for their sort of past actions and kind of just as their generally what they do, but you have to give them credit for this one. They've gone out there, they've pushed the boat out, they've made a bold appointment, they've made a win now appointment, and it's one that I definitely agree with because this is a squad that is ready to win right now. It's one of the best squads we've had in a long time. It's proven under Gareth Southgate, who did a good job with England, but it's proven that a guy who is an average manager has taken a group of players to 2 finals. You've got someone who is renowned as a top-class tactician who's got a winning pedigree, who knows what it takes to get over the line in big games. And England are ready to win now. This is a win now appointment. And, you can argue about whether it should be an English manager or not. I've got no issue with it being an English manager. But when you've got no food at home, you've got to order some in, haven't you? And it's the same with this. The English candidates are not good enough. You can't sit here and tell me that, people would have preferred an Eddie Howe or a Graham Potter or a Frank Lampard, a Gerrard or whatever over a Thomas Tuchel. Now, Mark Bullingham was saying that about 10 candidates were interviewed, and some of these guys could have been interviewed, and some of these guys could have said no. So it's one of them for me. But mate, where do you stand on this debate about the national team manager having to be of that nationality? Because you had Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher coming out and saying, they don't agree with it. They'd be saying something very different if it was Pep or if it was Jurgen Klopp. I think that the reaction would be very different. And Neville was saying, there's some outstanding English candidates, proceeded to name none, and then moaned about the state of English coaching. So I don't really know what his point was. But where do you stand on this one with national team managers? Should they be of that nationality, regardless of the quality of coaches you've got to choose from?
Well, I don't agree with you that it would be different if it was Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp. I think that they would be accepted by most people as an exciting appointment, just as Thomas Tuchel has been today. But it would not be it would not be the case that no media people or no ex-players come out and say the English manager should be English. That would still be said. I'm telling you, this is a conservative country, broadly speaking, and people would come out. If Pep Guardiola was hired, and it would be an incredible appointment, wouldn't it? Because he's one of the best managers of all time. But people would still come out and say that the England manager should be English. And I don't think it's as backward an opinion as people are saying, to be honest. Because the idea of international football is that you test your best against the other team's best, and who comes out on top. If you've got 4 good right backs and you've got no good left backs, the fun of international football is that there's nothing you can do about it. You can't go out and buy someone from Aston Villa. You have to just accept it, right? And so actually, when you pose the question, you can't be saying that everyone wants Eddie Howe or Graham Potter more than Thomas Tuchel. No, they don't, because Thomas Tuchel's a better manager. But if your country hasn't produced better managers, some people would argue that the answer should be tough. You've got to go with the best of your lot. And if that's Eddie Howe, then that's Eddie Howe. Now, it doesn't really matter where I stand on this. I don't think that's as backward as an opinion as some people are saying. But what I would say is that the FA clearly feel that more important than that was that they got someone on board who was going to get a trophy won now. I mean, when it gets to the 2026 World Cup, it will be 60 years of hurt for England. The last time England won a trophy, their only trophy, was their 1966 World Cup. So the FA clearly feel that after the good work that Gareth Southgate's done, they didn't quite get it done. Someone needs to come in and get it won. And who better in terms of cup tacticians in the world than Thomas Tuchel, who obviously beat Pep Guardiola's Man City 3 times in 4 months after taking the Chelsea job, and then won the Champions League with them, which was an incredible feat. And he's also won trophies wherever else he's been, including Dortmund, Borussia Mönchengladbach, Dortmund, Bayern Munich, and Paris Saint-Germain, which is an impressive resume. So listen, if you're not someone who's going to get too worked up on it having to be an Englishman, it's clearly a very exciting appointment, and it takes England, they'll hope, to the next step, doesn't it?
No, I agree. My issue, right, with the way that things, I've got no problem with people thinking it should be an English coach, but when someone's been appointed, right, regardless of your opinions, it should be a positive reaction. Right, it should be positive. This should be lauded as, a great thing. And yes, there are people that are very happy about it, but there's a lot of people that are saying that, this is like the Daily Mail, for example, their back page today about it being a dark day because the Germans in charge of England. Like that way of thinking so backwards. And I just think, it should be met with a positive reaction. I'm not saying that you can't have different opinions. Of course you have, but it's not. At the end of the day, why does it matter where this guy's passport's from? It really doesn't matter.
I think the capping up of the word German, you make a good point there. And listen, I think the idea that the England manager, for only the 3rd time ever, is not English, that's allowed to be considered controversial. But the fact that he is German rather than from any other nationality should not be considered controversial, because that is backward. And it's totally irrelevant. If England are going to hire a foreign manager, whether he's German or whether he's from Jamaica, it really should not matter. But some people will feel that the England national team is supposed to be for English people, players and managers, and that the German national team is supposed to be for German people, and that the Singaporean national team is supposed to be for Singaporean people. And that's fair enough, because in a player's sort of sense, that is how it works. But, other nations right now have got managers from foreign countries. Of course, Portugal are managed right now by a Spaniard in Roberto Martinez. And before that, Roberto Martinez was in charge of Belgium, and he's certainly not Belgian, he's Spanish. So there is precedent for this. England have precedent before themselves, of course, because they hired Sven-Göran Eriksson and Fabio Capello as their first 2 foreign managers. But Thomas Tuchel, I think now, it's fair to say, is probably the only world-class manager in international football. Everyone enjoys watching the Euros and the World Cup every 4 years, but the international game is seen as being of an inferior quality to the club game now. And actually, when you look at Tuchel, he goes in now as the best manager in international football, and closely followed by the likes of Didier Deschamps, probably Julian Nagelsmann and Maurizio Pochettino at the United States. So, yeah, it's an exciting appointment for England wherever you sit on the political debate. But, yeah, to home in on the fact that he's German instead of any other nationality, I think is missing the mark and is, as you say, very backward.
No, I agree. I mean, I don't follow other countries' media and reaction to things in other countries, but I'd be staggered if there was the same outrage to foreign appointments in other countries, for example. I'm not saying there might not be an outrage to it, but I'd be staggered if it was to the same extent as it's viewed in England. I just don't think other countries' medias are quite like the British media. They're very happy to build someone out, but they also can't wait to tear someone down. And they'll be.
I think that's right, but we haven't really seen whether that would happen in the likes of France or Germany.
No, true.
Or Italy, because those are countries where there is a genuine breeding ground for coaches, and they have an absolute plethora of options. I think there were 4 Italian managers at Euro 2024.
So really, rather than being outraged at the fact that it's not an English manager, the question and the direction of conversation should be, why do England consistently fail to produce top-level coaches time after time after time? The last English manager to win a domestic trophy was Harry Redknapp, FA Cup with Portsmouth. No English manager has ever won the Premier League. We have to ask the question, why do England consistently fail to produce top-level coaches? The reason we're going outside of England is because what we produce ourselves, a country so rich in football history, has got the best domestic league and whatnot, but it's built on all the best ideas from foreign players, from foreign managers coming into the game. why do we consistently produce no top quality coaches, no coaches that are capable of winning anything? And that for me is what the bigger question should be. And that's what the FA should be looking at, is how do we produce the next Thomas Tuchel as an English version? How do we produce the next Pep Guardiola English version? Like, you know, look at someone like Lee Carsley, who maybe could be a decent manager coming through, but where are the good English managers? It's been the same ones for years and years and years. Potter, Howe, and then you've got the likes of Lampard and Gerrard's out in Saudi securing the bag, not really doing anything. Lampard's had a break, not been particularly successful as a manager. Like, that for me has got to be the bigger question. I mean, that's something the FA surely must be concerned about.
They definitely are concerned about it, and it's one of the reasons why St George's Park was introduced in 2004 and opened in 2010, was not only to put the England youth teams in the same physical place as the senior teams so that there was a genuine progression, but also to breed coaches coming upwards. England have a real problem with not trusting, as a nation, people to begin coaching who haven't had a lauded career in football themselves. If you were to list the top 8, the top 10 best English managers around right now, you'd end up having to include probably, or they'd at least get close, the likes of Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard and Wayne Rooney. And these are not anywhere near England's best 8 or 10 managers, but they're the people who are in our sort of consciousness as a nation because of what they did as football players. But it's not the same thing. You know, managing and playing is not the same thing. What did Arsene Wenger do as a player? What did Tuchel, who England have just appointed, do as a player? No one knows.
Klopp wasn't a good player. Mourinho barely played. Right.
I think there's a lack of trust in England of giving someone who's not had a particularly successful playing career a chance, a break in management. And it is all about that break. You know, if you get given the job of Accrington Stanley, of Southend, no offence to those clubs, that's a really good platform to learn as a manager. But people are so reticent to give them to managers starting out. We just don't produce the number of managers, the number of quality managers that other countries do. And it's about quantity, because for every Jurgen Klopp that comes out of Germany, there will be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other managers who could have had a similar career, and it never quite worked for them.
Do you think though, the barriers to coaching, the barriers to getting into coaching, you know, the expense and whatnot to actually get on the coaching ladder is too high? I think people are put off by wanting to get started on their coaching journey because the barriers to entry are so high. And unless you've had a playing career where you can automatically get an in, if you're someone who just has a passion for coaching, hasn't really got much of a background from the playing side of the game, it is very, very difficult for you to get in. Now, I don't know what other countries are like, but I would imagine the barriers to entry are probably a little bit easier to get in. And I'd also imagine that and I'm sure England are now trying to do this. They're probably a number of years behind the likes of Spain and your other top nations, where all the age groups are together. All the age groups are playing the same style of football. So the 18s, the 21s, or whatever, they're all playing the same style of football as the first team. So then those players are then ready to step up, and it's a seamless transition in. But if we swing it back round to Tuchel, mate, obviously it's 18-month contract. It's not particularly long. It's obviously with the 2026 World Cup in mind. Now, whether he's looking at this as a springboard to get himself back into club management, we don't know. This is as good a chance as any now for England to actually win the World Cup. I mean, that's going to be the remit, and anything else would probably be considered a failure. So, I mean, how much pressure do you think Tuchel's under now?
I think if England got to the quarterfinals, he'd probably be offered. I'm not saying he should be, but if England got to the quarterfinals and went out, I could imagine him being offered a contract extension. If he got to the semis or the final or won it, he definitely would be offered a contract extension. That's how I read it. But yeah, it's also worth mentioning, I know that Gareth Southgate in 4 tournaments, his 2 worst showings were the World Cup, because he got to the semi-finals and then the quarterfinals. But actually the World Cup is an easier tournament to win than the European Championships, because the average quality of a team is worse. So I think England have got a really good opportunity to win the World Cup for only the second time in their history, and the first time on foreign soil when they go to the USA, Canada, and Mexico in 2026. And Tuchel will absolutely agree with that. He wouldn't have taken on the job otherwise. He said today when he was speaking that he had to be convinced that international football was for him, but that the project that the FA showed to him was one that he sort of bought it, and he's excited by it, and we have to trust that that's the case. And I think it is exciting, and he's got just enough time now, those 18 months, to learn which players he likes, which players he doesn't like, which formation he'd like to go with. But I think we're past the days now where England, where we feel fixated on which number one formation an England manager is going to pick and which number one starting 11 he's going to pick, because it shouldn't be like that. We saw, actually, I know England didn't win a trophy, but we saw Gareth Southgate used different lineups in different matches in his tournaments, actually to quite good effect. And the best managers will do that. I'm not saying that Gareth Southgate's one of the best managers, but that's what good managers will do. And I think Tuchel will now hone over the next few months. Obviously, he starts on January the 1st, New Year's Day. He'll hone the squad and the players that he wants to be involved with.
I mean, how do you see England changing under Tuchel? We know predominantly, I mean, certainly at Chelsea, he played a back three system. At Bayern, at times it was back three, back four, combination of the two. He's got a great crop of players at his dispense. You know, Harry Kane's obviously performed very well under Tuchel last season. I think 44 goals in 45 appearances, or the other way around. He was exceptional under Tuchel at Bayern Munich. I mean, for the likes of Cole Palmer, I think it's going to be great. Bellingham, Rice, Rice was someone that he wanted at Chelsea. You know, he's got a great group of players to work with. He knows a lot of the players already, which is going to be, you know, a plus for the settling in period. How do you expect England's style to differ? Because it was very pragmatic under Southgate. It was very much playing with the handbrake on. We know that Tuchel sets up teams well. We know he's defensively solid. He can play that similar style of football if it's the best way to get a result. But do you expect much to change on the pitch? Everyone's excited about the appointment, you know, the players that, you know, are going to be playing under him. But how different do you think England are actually going to be?
If he can find a left wing back who'll stay fit, I could imagine him playing Trent Alexander-Arnold as a right wing back and giving it a go with a back three or a back five. But I think the most likely formation that he'll do is a 4-2-3-1, which is probably the most common formation in football, but also the formation England are most used to, having played that at the Euros predominantly and under Carsley as well. I think it will be interesting to see whether he can get the best out of Phil Foden, because no one in England shirt has managed to do that yet.
He's got shocking for England.
He's got 4 England goals in 43 caps. That's fewer than Jesse Lingard and Declan Rice and Harry Maguire, the centre-back. So that shows that there's something to be taken out. There's something to be got out of Phil Foden that Pep Guardiola manages to get out of him for Manchester City, but no England manager has been able to yet. Obviously, only really Southgate as a permanent manager has had that chance. Can Tuchel do it? We know that Foden and Jude Bellingham were really cramping each other's style, weren't they, at the European Championships? They were getting in each other's way quite a lot. So he's got so many options, particularly in attack. It will be interesting to see how he sets up. I think at this stage, it's probably most likely to be a 4-2-3-1. As I say, Harry Kane will obviously lead the line. I mean, there have been some ridiculous talk in the last few months that people like Ollie Watkins should be given a go permanently. I mean, I understand that Ollie Watkins has a smaller number next to his name when you look at age than Harry Kane, but Harry Kane is clearly a world-class player.
To be fair, I did say during the Euros when he was particularly not very good that he probably shouldn't be England's first choice striker at the 26 World Cup. That might have been a little bit reactionary, but that's also a conversation that does need to be had, because he could be injured, he could be.
But it's not one or the other. You're right about injuries, but it's not one or the other, is it? I mean,
England should. No, but I agree. But don't you think that England should be thinking about how to play without Harry Kane?
Yes, I do, and I think Tuchel.
For me, there's no plan B. It's always Kane, and if Kane's crap or if Kane's injured, there's no backup plan.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I think that Watkins provides a backup plan, because he's about as good as any striker has ever been as a potential deputy to Kane in Kane's time in Kane's time in the international team. So I think Tuchel will want to get the best out of, and will believe he can get the best out of big players like Kane, Bellingham. Harder for Foden, but can he get it done? And will players who he had in his Chelsea team come back into the reckoning?
Could be a bit of a remontada for Reece James. Could be, you know, I mean, if he goes right wing back system, he knows him very well there. I mean, you're spoiled for choice. There's a lot of options. I mean, just last couple of things, mate. This might be a bit of a difficult question, but which players do you think, just off the top of your head, do you reckon benefit the most from this appointment? Because, you know, there's always players that benefit from certain managerial appointments, and there's always players that kind of lose out. Who do you think the big winners are initially from this appointment?
Difficult to know. I guess it depends which formation he goes with, but I could imagine Reece James, but then we haven't seen Thomas Tuchel ever manage Trent Alexander-Arnold before, so we don't know if actually Trent Alexander-Arnold had been at Chelsea all those years and it had been Reece James at Liverpool. Would he have got the best out of Trent instead? Hard to know. But I think that Harry Kane is an obvious one because of how many goals he scored last season, like the top scorer in Europe for Bayern Munich. How he didn't win a trophy is beyond me, probably beyond him as well. So he would be the obvious one. What would benefit England most in terms of a player if Tuchel could get the best out of him? I think it has to be Foden because we just haven't seen it.
What about Cole Palmer?
I think Cole Palmer's a really interesting one, and I think the more England game time he gets in the next couple of years, the better for England. Because although Bellingham and Foden on paper in a similar position are better players, Palmer is really coming for them, and I think we heard the Chelsea co-sporting director saying that he's a potential Ballon d'Or winner of the future the other day, and I don't disagree. I could imagine that happening. So yeah, I could definitely imagine Tuchel taking a shine to Palmer.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Levi Colwell's potentially a big winner from this as well. I think Harry Maguire could be one of the big losers. I don't see him having too much of an England future. I'm not saying he won't make squads, but I think the days of him being a regular starter are gone. I think he's behind Guehi, he's behind Stones, he's behind Colwell. I think, you know, the likes of Tomori, Trevor Chalobah, these are players that
I think he would probably be behind Konsa, wouldn't he?
Yeah, as well. Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's for players like Chalobah, for players like Tomori and stuff, this is an opportunity to get in. Maybe someone like Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who's worked under Thomas Tuchel before, is another one. You know, that midfield area we're not blessed with options to see Angel Gomez come in over the last couple of camps and do a very good job. There are spaces up for grabs there. But mate, just to round out, that's 18 months away, but do you think England can win the World Cup 26?
I'm not going to answer with the question of whether they will, but they definitely can. Yes, of course they can. If you look at the players they've got and the quality of manager that they've just hired, they definitely can. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm going to call it now. It's going to happen. I think it has to happen. If England can't win a trophy with Thomas Tuchel and this group of players, we're never winning anything. We'll just forget it and go home, and we'll play something else. Because if we can't win with this manager, with this group of players, then it's never going to happen. And I can't bear the thought of that. You know, it'd be depressing, you know, if you appoint a top class manager and you still can't win. So that for me is when it comes down to, it must just be in the DNA, in the fabric at the FA and the fabric at Wembley, just like something, you know, almost like the Spurs of international football, which is not a tag that you want. So hopefully, you know, Tuchel can shake that one off. But mate, thank you so much for coming on. Greatly appreciated as always. If people want to check out what you do, let them know where to go.
Yeah, you can find me at standard.co.uk, where I write for the Evening Standard, but also on Twitter at Mr. Dom Smith.
Perfect. Guys, make sure you check both those things out. They'll be in the description, so go and check it out. Thanks for tuning in as always, guys. Smash the like, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I'll catch you again in another one.